Guys, I think I finally got my camera figured out, which is great because buying a new one is so expensive. Kind of like owning reptiles, right? Alright, y'all, so I have tried to film this 3 separate times. And every single time, something has gone wrong, so this is the last time I'm trying. If this doesn't work, I'm not posting it. So, we are talking about the cost of keeping a ball python versus getting a dog, okay? And this is by my experience. Everyone has a different experience, so we're just gonna go with it. Alrighty, so to start off, right, ball pythons and dogs, totally different beasts. But we're gonna go through how much the animal costs versus how much an enclosure costs. You know, food, water, all of that. We're gonna go through all of that. So, to start off, let's go with enclosure, because that's probably going to be the most expensive thing for a ball python. Okay? So, the enclosure that I got, which is a 4x2x2, which will last him his entire life as long as nothing catastrophic happens, was about $350. And that's without shipping because it was free shipping. So $350-ish. You know, with taxes it was closer to like $360, but still wasn't bad. And that's going to last him in his entire life. For my puppy dogs, when I talk about enclosure, I'm talking about like if you want a kennel. When I first got my dogs, we were living in a much different situation, and so I had to have a kennel for my dogs. And so I got one that was big enough for both of them to be able to comfortably be in for like overnights and all of that. My dogs are kennel trained. They no longer have a kennel because this is our house, so I don't have to worry about it. And that cost me about $150. I actually got mine used, so I got it for a little bit less, and you can definitely do that, but if you get it from a store, $150. Okay? And same thing with the enclosure for the ball python. If you can find a used one that is still in good condition and is still sealed, or, you know, maybe you have to put a background in or whatever, go for it. Like, you can do this cheaper. I'm just going based off of the retail cost to buy everything new. So let's talk about things that go in the enclosure or enrichment. So for my ball python, you know, I went to the dollar store and I got a bunch of fake vines with leaves and things like that. Granted, I still have to go to Hobby Lobby. Y'all keep an eye out for that. I'm waiting until a good paycheck comes in so I can kind of go ham. But for my ball python, I spent maybe $15 on the fake leaves, on the vines, on, you know, the stick that's in there for him to climb. I already had that. It was a walking stick from years and years ago. Obviously, the price can go up. You can do more stuff. You can do different stuff. You can do, you know, backgrounds that they can climb on. You can do all sorts of stuff. But pretty much bare minimum, I spent like $15. Okay? For my dogs, so we're just going with one dog, but this is what I did because I got both of mine at the same time. They're brother and sister. So for my dogs, I spent about $30 plus on their first toys. So, for instance, as soon as I got my puppy dogs, I ended up going and getting a harness, a leash. I let them pick out some toys. We went into Petco. They got to pick out their toys. and it was about $100. And then I just got one of those little tubes of tennis balls, and yeah, so $30 or more. Again, it's completely dependent on your situation. If you want to go cheaper, go cheaper. You can probably get some on Amazon that are just fine. It also depends on what kind of toys your dog likes. Mine really likes squeaky toys that are soft, like stuffies, that have a squeaker in them. Granted, now, they chew them apart, pull the squeaker out, and then just sit there and squeak the squeaker for days. So, there's that too. So food and water dish. So, for my ball python, I went to the dollar store again, and I just found a nice solid like glass dish that I could put in there that I knew he wouldn't tip over, and it was like less than $5. I said about $5 in my list here, but it was, I think it was less than $5. For my dogs, I had an automatic waterer plus a food bowl, and so it was about $15 a piece there. If you bought them separately, about $30 total if you bought them together. So you can always go more expensive if you get the automatic feeder, automatic waterer. You can get the little fountain thing, you know. Also, you can go more expensive with the ball python too. If you really want to, you can get one of those cool rock water dishes. I actually ended up getting one just because I thought it would be good for him to have something to soak in as he gets bigger, if he wants to. But yeah, initially, $5 for the ball python water dish, and for the dogs, $30 total for the food and water dish. The dish. Alrighty, and lighting. So I do have UVB on for my ball python. I know it's not necessarily required, but some studies have shown that there is some benefits to it. And I wanted to give the best possible that I could at that time. So I went ahead and got a UVB light for his enclosure, and it is currently on a timer so that he gets a day-night cycle. I just set it from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I let it do its thing. So that was about $75. I used the Shade Dweller bulb, so it's a little bit cheaper than like what you would need for a bearded dragon, because those are a lot more intense. But yeah, so I did get UVB, so $75 for lighting. For my dogs, it's the lighting in my house that's going to be on or off anyway. So $0 towards the dogs, because again, they'd be on or off anyway. So heat. This is another one that for the dogs, it's whatever it is in my house. If it's hot in my house, it's hot in my house. If it's cold in my house, it's cold in my house. Granted, obviously we try to keep a moderate temperature just because we live here too. But for the ball python, I have the radiant heat panel, and that was about $125 for the one that I got, because it heats the whole enclosure. I got one big enough that it'll heat the whole enclosure, have the hot side, have the cool side. So that one was about $125. So we're getting there for the comparison. Quarantine. So I did start out with quarantining my ball python, and I did not quarantine my dogs, although I should have, because there were other dogs in the house when I got them. So this is something to think about. Not everyone is going to do this. Not everyone thinks about this. But with snakes, lizards, things like that, if you have more than one, definitely quarantine. Definitely, even if you know the breeder, even if you know exactly where they came from, the exact conditions they came from, highly, highly, highly recommend quarantining. And honestly, even if you don't have any other reptiles that could catch any diseases from that reptile or mites or anything like that, I recommend quarantining for at least a couple of weeks. Just because then you can make sure that they are eating, you can make sure that they are passing things through, and you can monitor them a lot better to make sure that nothing is wrong. I highly recommend quarantine, even if it is your first reptile. That being said, quarantining is actually really easy. And it gives you time to get your enclosure really set up in the way that you want it to be. I actually cut Mocha Bean's quarantine short. So, but a lot of that was because I had a couple more interactions with the breeder that we got him from. And I was able to kind of, figure out that, he really did come from really good conditions. He was already eating for me. I hadn't seen a poop yet, but he had also just shed before we got him. So I was like, okay, I'll wait until he sheds, which he still hasn't done yet. When he does, there will be a whole video on it, I promise, because I'm excited for his first shed, but he's not there yet. But yeah, so anyways, quarantine. So for the ball python, so I spent about $10 on a tub. I spent about $13 on the hides, one on each side, hot and cold side. I spent about another $13 on a heat pad that goes underneath to give him belly heat, because in the tub, it's really hard to give overhead heat. So belly heat's just fine. As long as you have the thermostat, which was about $26 is what I spent. There are better ones. There are more quality ones. The $26 one worked just fine. I made sure to have my temperature gun to double check it, because that's imperative. Because heat pads will burn your animal and possibly burn your house down if they're not on a thermostat and if you're not checking your temps. I spent about $6 on a hydrometer, which it was the little case of 2. They're literally these little, about yay big by yay big little boxes that I just dropped straight on the substrate. These same hydrometers that he had in quarantine went with him into the big enclosure, because there was no point in keeping them out, because I needed some in the big enclosure anyway. They're like $6 off of Amazon. Super easy to order. And that helps measure humidity. So that tells you if you're too humid, not humid enough. It also does have a little temperature gauge on there. I don't use it for the temperature gauge. I'd rather just use my temp gun. But I do keep it on the substrate with him. That way, if the humidity fluctuates, which it always does, I can catch it. And then for my puppy dogs, we're going back to the quarantine thing. I should have quarantined them, but I did not. So $0 there. I didn't have to buy anything extra for that. If I was going to quarantine them, what I would have done is put puppy pads down in their kennel. And I would have just made sure to keep everything super duper clean. Make sure that they're able to go out and, pass everything along. Pee, poop, all of that. Keep an eye on their eating. But I was able to do all of that without really having to quarantine. And I really kind of kept them away from the other dogs in the house anyways. So I wasn't too worried about it. But it's something to keep in mind. Something to keep in mind. Okay, so miscellaneous things, because we all know that the basic care items are not quite everything that you're going to want, right? You always want a little bit more for the animals and things in your life that you love. So, for instance, the timer on Mocha Bean's light It also powers his heat panel and the thermostat, but it's really cool because the one that I got has one side that's the timer side and one side that's always on. So one strip, and I was able to plug all of them into that. It's been perfect. It was like $22 on Amazon. There are some other ones out there that are like Wi-Fi enabled. This one's just a manual one. I went for the cheaper one because that's what worked for me at the moment, and it's worked great. Haven't had an issue. Miscellaneous plants. So when I go to Hobby Lobby, I am likely going to spend a good amount of money on miscellaneous things like plants, maybe some rocks, if they've got some really cool rocks I can toss in there. Some, different like poles and stuff to maybe give him more climbing opportunity. So I allocated like $50-ish, maybe a little bit more for all of that. So substrate falls under miscellaneous, but it is necessary. So it was about $40 in substrate to be able to fill up what I needed to in the big enclosure. Quarantine, I used paper towels. Granted, I would like to not use paper towels. And I could probably go get some butcher paper for the next reptile I bring home, which is probably what I'll do. But starting out, paper towels work just fine. I kept an eye on him when he was eating. He didn't swallow any, so we're good. So for the dogs though, I have had some issues with my dogs having bad breath, kind of no matter what I feed to them. So for dental chews, which I also kind of use as treats because my dogs really love them, it was about $40. About $40 for dental chews, and this is just for one bag that lasts probably 6 to 8 weeks. So that's something that you're gonna have to, if you decide to continue with it, it's not necessary, but it will build up cost over time. For a bed for my dogs with a washable, removable cover, which for me was essential because dog hair gets everywhere. And just washing the entire bed with I'm pretty sure that it's memory foam. They're really good beds for the puppy dogs. It was $65 a piece for them. Now that also had a waterproof barrier, which with me having a toddler is huge, because when my kiddo was younger, he would spill milk everywhere. He, spit up. He would pee everywhere. So having the removable cover and the waterproof barrier was extremely important to me. And $65 per bed. I have 2 of them, so it was about $130 to get both of my dogs' beds. But they're still doing well and kicking, so those beds are pretty much worth it. I love it. Something else about dogs is the cost of replacing destroyed items. So especially if you get a puppy. I mean, even older dogs will do it, but puppies are notorious for it. They're chewing on everything. They're trying to, work those puppy teeth out so that they can get their big dog teeth. And for instance, one of my dogs had an obsession with my underwear. And she would chew them all up. Any chance she could. She figured out how to open up my drawer in my dresser to chew up my underwear. And my other dog, when they were little, he really loved to chew up my flip-flops. It's because they were foamy, they felt cool on his teeth, and he was obsessed with chewing up my flip-flops. He wouldn't touch any of my other shoes. He would chew on my shoelaces, though, for like my work boots when I was working at the factories and everything. He would chew up those laces, but he really didn't chew on anything else. He would lick the wall though. He's a little strange. But, you know, the cost of replacing destroyed objects, that comes with having a puppy. That is something that puppy owners tend to forget to expect. Like, you think, oh, I'm getting a puppy, I gotta provide it food, water, love, and it'll be fine. Well, what happens when they chew on your new work shoes? Or what happens when those high heels that you so love have a rubber tip on the back of the heel that feels cool to their teeth? Because I lost a couple of pairs of my, like, favorite high heels. And that's saying something, because I don't wear high heels very often. But there were a lot of things that I had to pay to replace because the dogs chewed them up. Ball pythons don't do that. So, and that's... I just put unlimited replacement of destroyed objects on my list over here because there are so many things that I had to replace. I don't even know the total. But I do know that at one point, all of my underwear had been chewed up, so I had to go buy brand new packs of underwear for about $30 from Walmart. And that didn't even cover half of what got destroyed. So, okay. The next thing that we are going to go over is the cost of food. Because that's a part of trying to own an animal, right? Is we gotta feed them. So, for my ball python, because he is eating once a week, he's eating a rat pup slash small weaned rat once a week. He's actually been eating very well. So the cost of that, it's about $3 to $5 per rat pup wear mat. So it's about $20 a month in food for my ball python. And I tend to buy a little bit ahead just so, you know, I don't have to be going in every week. And I also feed frozen thawed, so that makes buying ahead easier. Because they can be in the freezer for up to 3 months before the nutritional value severely goes down. You know, the fresher it is, the better, but if it's in the freezer for a little extra time, it's not going to be a bad thing. Unless it's like years down the line, then good luck to you, sir. For dogs, I spend about $40 a month. And that's even a little bit lower than what I actually spend because I was trying to narrow it down for one dog. I also have to get a specialty food because one of my dogs has a grain intolerance. And it will literally make him fart so bad that it will stink up the entire house. If my dog gets a piece of bread, we have to open all of the windows, no matter how hot or cold it is outside, just to clear it out. And we're all gagging and coughing, and it is so gnarly. It's so bad. So, the bag of dog food that we normally get, currently I think we're on Diamond Naturals. They're not a sponsor or anything. This is just what I feed my dog. We do I think it's the salmon and rice. I don't remember. I'll have to go look. I know it's Diamond Naturals, and it's the blue one. It's the skin and coat version. It's about $44 for the big bag. And so we get that big bag probably once every 3 to 4 weeks. And we open feed our dogs. So it's when they are hungry, they will go get food. If they're not hungry, they're not going to eat. I am very fortunate that my dogs don't eat until they puke very often. So, yeah. So about $20 a month for the ball python, about $40 a month for the dog. And then let's get down to the animal and how much the animal costs while I take a sip of my coffee here. Okay. The cost of the animal. Obviously, this is going to vary based on where you get your animal, what kind of animal it is, and, you know, if you're local, if you're driving, any of that. So, for instance, my ball python is a normal ball python. That's a normal morph. He is het pied, but he's just a normal. He just presents as a normal. He's still super cute, though. I still love him. But I got him for $80. He was originally $100, but he was on sale that week for Memorial Day? Might be Memorial Day. I think. There was a holiday. He was on sale. Oh, it was the 4th of July. Yeah. I knew it was some very, very American Pride holiday. I live in America, by the way. I should know this. But yeah, so he was normally $100. He was on sale for $80. I bought him in person. I did not order him online. And I was able to face-to-face with the breeder. I was able to hold a couple of other snakes while I was there. You know, it was really nice experience. Now, you can get a normal ball python online on, like, Morph Market. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up because I saw some crazy low prices when I was looking the other day. Because I was looking the other day. If you know, you know. So, let's see. Obviously, a lot of these prices are not going to include shipping. Shipping is going to depend on where you live and where the breeder lives. Some of these are even... Sorry. Super pretty first things that popped up. Some of these are even local pickup only, and some of them are pet only, which is why they are lower. Right? So for instance, there is a ball python here at Loving Leo's Reptiles Rescue for $10. $10. It is a local pickup only, though. Yep, Loving Leo's Reptile Rescue Incorporated in Kentucky. Ooh. Anyway, sorry. I don't know if you can. Yeah, I won't be able to see that. I'm gonna cut that out. But $10 for an adult ball python. That's local pickup. You know, there's. Here we go. A normal 66% het clown, 50% het VPI. That is $20. And it's a baby. She's a baby. Oh, she's actually really pretty. Anyways, you know, shipping with that is also going to be, you know, on mine it says $50 to $100. That's because shipping live animals is expensive. It has a lot of risk involved. There's a good chance that there could be a problem. So just know the shipping price is priced to account for that. You have to have heat packs, cold packs. You have to really pack them in there to make sure that they can get where they're going safely. You have to label it correctly. There's a lot that goes into shipping animals, so that's why the shipping is so high. But even then, you know, say it's the lowest amount, $50 for shipping, $20 for the animal. You're literally spending $70 to buy a ball python. A baby ball python. A female baby ball python. Who is adorable, but my phone screen does not work on my camera. So, there is that. You know, there's cheaper options. Okay, I gotta stop looking at that. I was fortunate to be able to go to a breeder to be able to meet the snake and got him for $80. Now let's flop it to the dog side. Okay? My 2 dogs are rescues. My 2 dogs are rescues. And when we got them, they were 6 months old. Okay? They were in a foster home when we got them. They were, funny enough, my friend was the one who had them as foster puppies. And that's how I knew them. So we went and picked them out and went and paid for them, and they were ours. Now, I paid about $250 a piece. Yeah. $250 a piece. That is USD for my dogs. When they were 6-month-old puppies who came from a rescue. And my dogs are mutts. My dogs are black lab and pit bull mix and possibly something else. We don't know. Their mama was a stray somewhere in Texas, and the rescue picked him up and shipped him to Colorado, and then I ended up with my puppies. And my puppies had a lot of health issues, and they still kind of do, but I still love them dearly. They were my children before my child. But still, they were $250 a piece. I spent $500 to bring those 2 home. So, let's break it down for the totals. Okay? So, just for buying the stuff. Okay? Just for buying the stuff. Comparing what I spent to get all the stuff for my dogs versus all the stuff for my ball python. The ball python was about $780. Now, I'm not done getting stuff for him. I'm not done getting enrichment. I'm not done building up his enclosure to be the best that it can be. But that's a good starting cost for all the stuff for the ball python. But it's stuff that he can use for the rest of his life, which is 20 to 30 years. So just to put that into perspective. For the dogs, I calculated out about $335 for just the stuff. Not including the cost of the animal. Not including any up to my water bill, because it's my water bill for my house. So, now let's break it down with the animal, with the cost of the animal. The total for the ball python was about $860 plus the $20 a month for feeding him. Because the first one did not include like continuous feeding. It just included the first one. Like I guess the first month of feeding. But anyways. So yeah, ball python $860 plus $20 a month until either the end of his life, the end of my life, whichever one comes first, whatever may happen in the future. Now, for my puppy dogs, for just one dog, it was about $585 with the cost of the animal, plus the stuff, plus $40 per month. That $40 per month is continuous. Until, yet again, either the day they die, the day I die, or whatever life may bring us. So if we break it down, it looks like the ball python costs a lot more. And ultimately, to begin, it does. To get set up with a ball python, it is a lot more expensive than to get set up with a puppy. But with the ball python, you only have to feed it once a week, or even less, because depending on the age, you can, when they reach adult size, they tend to eat less often. They tend to eat bigger meals, but less often. So that, $20 a month can go down to $10 a month, depending on your supplier. That sounded very not internet safe. Anyways, so for the dogs, that's $40 a month. That is double what the ball python eats. Plus all of the unlimited replacement of destroyed items. I don't think your ball python's going to be destroying things. If anything, if you end up letting a ball python loose in your house, you're just going to find it hiding somewhere. Hopefully safe. So, cost in maintaining the ball python versus the dogs. Maintaining them, the ball python is cheaper by a lot. When it comes to startup, getting a puppy versus getting a baby snake, the startup for the snake is going to be more, but it's going to last for 20 to 35 years. I don't know the record of the oldest kept ball python. Sorry, my lighting is weird. That's natural light from the sun. I can't really control that. Where was I? Right. So the maintaining cost is going to be cheaper for the ball python. That's the reality of it. Obviously, I love my dogs. I'm not going to trade my dogs for reptiles. That is not going to happen. They were my kids before my kid. And I also love my ball python. I'm really hoping to get a couple more. If you didn't know, reptiles are kind of addictive. They kind of feel like Pokemon, honestly. You gotta catch them all. As long as you don't turn it into a hoarding situation, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Adam Wickens has a video on that, if you want to go check his video out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of cost breakdown. Hopefully it'll help you make informed decisions when it comes to getting an animal, getting a pet. Ultimately, I just kind of wanted to put it out there because I've actually had a lot of questions on, how expensive is it? And, well, what's that going to cost me? If you're not looking for something super duper crazy, it's really not too expensive. It's more expensive to start out with, but over the long term, it's not a whole lot of money. You can always, up, down. If you find stuff at the dollar store, that's great. If you don't, then you're spending a little bit more, or get creative with it. It's all up to you. That's the beauty of it. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next time.